What you are about to pay attention to isn't any regular space update. Something simply passed off some distance past the attain of any Earthbound telescope in occasion, so unexpected that it is forcing NASA scientists to impeach the whole thing they notion they knew about interstellar encounters. A spacecraft released nearly half a century ago, Voyager 1, has simply been related to an excellent attempt, an interception of an item not simply alien to our solar gadget, however, probably alien in a far deeper sense. This object is none aside from 1’s, the 0.33 confirmed interstellar traveler, and what took place when Voyager 1 tried to align with it is something that's now echoing through assignment control facilities, classified reports, and even historic records. Something modified when these trajectories nearly touched. And now the sector is left thinking, did Voyager 1 definitely make touch with something not from our world? Or did something else, something no one predict a reply? First, Voyager 1 was released in 1977 to discover the outer planets, but after completing its venture, it just saved going out of the solar system and into the unknown. Now, in a path that nobody expected, a couple of unbiased resources have claimed that NASA reactivated certain directional abilities of Voyager 1 to try a passive intercept or observational alignment with 3i, and the timing is suspiciously perfect. 3i was discovered in July 2025, transferring at over 150,000 miles per hour, an interstellar object not like any we have encountered since Oumuamua, and unlike them, Atlas is bigger, faster, and stranger. Voyager 1's trajectory, once believed to be set in stone, appears to have been subtly redirected through long-range communication pulses. This wouldn't imply physically turning the probe, but instead recalibrating its units to acquire records from a new location in space, exactly where Atlas would pass. And if this is real, then Voyager 1 has simply become our first interstellar observer in history to attempt contact with a body from another star system, just days after Atlas approached the proximity region where Voyager sensors might feasibly record distant signatures. Earth's magnetosphere spiked. This wasn't just a solar flare. Instruments detected ripples within the electromagnetic field consistent with directed energy events, but not from Earth. The frequency and orientation of these fluctuations pointed outward toward deep space, as if a signal were bounced back. NASA has refused to verify any connection. However, insiders close to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory report that Voyager systems recorded unusual noise patterns, ones that do not match known cosmic background radiation or common stellar interference. This is what has scientists truly panicked, because the only way Voyager could have received something that strong is if 3i wasn't just a passive chunk of ice and rock, but a responsive object capable of emitting its own electromagnetic footprints, something that reacts, something that listens. Back in the early 1980s, Voyager was equipped with a high-gain antenna and transmission protocols designed to send back images and data from Saturn, Jupiter, and beyond. Those systems were never intended to last into the 2020s, yet they did. NASA engineers have quietly admitted that minor enhancements and recalibrations were completed through deep space communication pulses. But here's where the story flips upside down. A transmission sent to 3i using Voyager's instruments may have received a structured return signal. Data leaked from mission logs show that during the Atlas alignment window, Voyager's signal pattern came back with symmetric periodic bursts far too orderly to be noise. Imagine sending a message into the darkness and hearing a rhythm echo back, a rhythm that follows no known astrophysical behavior. Could it be data? Could it be language? Or was this simply a cosmic coincidence too complex to ignore? Either way, scientists aren't sleeping well. Now, let's talk about something even more chilling. This is not the first time this course has been followed. Ancient civilizations like those who built Machu Picchu and Göbekli Tepe constructed their monuments aligned with solstice angles that now match 3i entry trajectory. The odds of this being random are astronomically low. Combine that with historical texts describing wanderers from the stars, objects that moved, unlike planets or constellations, appearing suddenly and then disappearing without a trace. And we begin to see the outline of a disturbing pattern. What if these weren't myths? What if humanity has encountered interstellar visitors before and encoded their paths into stone for future generations? Voyager 1 may have just walked into the same cosmic corridor mapped out over 11,000 years ago, and the fact that we are only now catching up to what they may have already known, that is what terrifies modern scientists the most. 10 days after the Voyager 3.1 Atlas proximity event, a dataset appeared anonymously on an encrypted server used by astrophysicists and SETI researchers. The files, signed only with the codename, contained raw waveform sequences allegedly captured by Voyager 1's magnetometer and plasma wave instruments. At first glance, they looked like noisy regular fluctuations in voltage. But when several researchers independently ran Fourier transformations and applied pattern recognition algorithms, something extraordinary emerged. A recursive harmonic sequence, repeating every 19.7 minutes. The signal wasn't simply structured, it was self-correcting. In other words, it adapted over time to enhance readability, as though it were compensating for the Voyager's degraded antenna. That on its own is impossible via any natural process, we know. Either the signal was being reflected, or someone or something was actively trying to be understood. This is when internal flags were raised. The leaked metadata indicated that the signal had been flagged internally by NASA's Artificial Intelligence Anomaly System, designated SERENA, which only activates in cases where transmissions show non-human logic flow. The very system designed to detect alien contact had triggered. Voyager 1, even though not equipped with propulsion, still carries gyroscopes and antenna alignment systems that allow engineers to slightly modify its orientation. But on August 1, 2025, multiple amateur space monitoring groups reported an unexpected shift in Voyager 1's telemetry data. Somehow, the probe had modified its transmission vector, reorienting in the direction of a position that did not match its last known navigational commands. The change was subtle, no more than a few degrees, but in deep space, that kind of motion is monumental. What's even stranger is this realignment pointed not at 3i Atlas's last known position, but in the direction of its projected future trajectory weeks in advance. It was as though Voyager was predicting where Atlas would go next, like a chess player anticipating a move before it occurs. Engineers at JPL claimed the shift was due to a minor miscommunication with the Deep Space Network, but leaked internal memos suggested something more unnerving. The probe had changed course before instructions were sent. This leaves only two possibilities. Either Voyager is malfunctioning in a remarkably coordinated manner, or something out there is controlling it remotely. As Voyager was quietly realigning in the darkness, Earth-based telescopes using infrared and ultraviolet filters began to detect unusual activity around 3i Atlas itself. Most interstellar objects, like Oumuamua, show expected behavior: tumbling, sublimating gases, brightness fluctuations due to spin. But Atlas began to pulse, its light curve flickering in a nearly binary rhythm, on and off in a cycle that exactly mirrored the timestamp of Voyager's last transmission burst. Even more bizarrely, Atlas slowed down a measurable decrease in velocity, not due to gravitational interaction, not due to outgassing jets. It decelerated as though something was exerting external control over it. NASA publicly dismissed it as an optical illusion due to parallaxed errors. But independent observatories across Europe and South America confirmed the change. For the first time in recorded history, an interstellar object had altered its velocity and heading, and it did so only after Voyager reoriented. The question no one dares to ask publicly is, was this a coincidence or a response? Voyager 1 famously carries the golden record, a disk containing music, sounds, images, and scientific data from Earth, meant to communicate our civilization to any potential discoverers. But what few people know is that the original digital blueprint of the record contains additional metadata never officially released to the public: coordinates, quantum encoding maps, or even time-based logic puzzles embedded in its analog spiral. Now, decades later, a group of cryptologists at a European university claimed they discovered something else: a mathematical anomaly hidden in the audio waveform of the sounds of Earthtrack, a single repeating tone, undetectable to the human ear, embedded below the sounds of birds, thunder, and footsteps. When isolated and amplified, the frequency reveals a numerical prime sequence that appears to match the harmonic pulses Voyager received from 3i Atlas. Did we unknowingly include a trigger signal within the golden record, a signature of intelligence meant to activate something in the void? And more importantly, did 3i Atlas recognize that signal? Because if it did, then this was never a one-way transmission. It was a reciprocal handshake, written in the mathematics of the stars. Shortly after the interaction spike between Voyager 1 and 3i Atlas, NASA's Deep Space Network registered an unexpected anomaly: the Voyager transmission logs covered a packet of facts that didn't fit the original code framework embedded in its onboard structures. When engineers tried to decode the series, something stunning occurred. The gadget began rewriting its own interpreting protocol. This had never taken place before within the probe's 48-year history. The software program, at first constrained to 8-bit telemetry interpretation, all at once produced 128-bit outputs, as though the transmission itself had carried an instruction set to improve the receiver's capability remotely. It was like giving a calculator a new operating system, not via hardware, but through pure signal. One analyst put it bluntly: it's like Voyager got smarter without anyone touching it. A probe, built in the 1970s, working with 1970s technology, had just processed a message in a format it was never designed to understand. Except it did. Inside a leaked NASA presentation from 2018, there exists a slide marked for internal use only, with the codename Watcher Protocol. The document outlines a theoretical scenario in which a legacy spacecraft receives external contact and begins adaptive signal behavior that mimics artificial intelligence without hosting any onboard AI system. It also warns that if such behavior is detected, the spacecraft should not be treated as inert equipment, but rather as an active node in an alien communication system. Guess what term internal engineers used to classify Voyager 1 after the 3 Atlas signal? That's right, Watcher Active. From that point on, the probe was treated as an interface, not a mere object. Engineers were forbidden from manually interfering with its communication structures unless authorized through what the memo referred to as the Contact Chain Directive. If this is true, it implies NASA had always considered this scenario possible and, now it had occurred. Shortly after Voyager's anomalous data spike, SETI's Allen Telescope Array went dark. Not technically offline, but its public live feeds were cut. Their website removed the Signal Archive section briefly, citing scheduled maintenance. Behind the scenes, researchers reported a sudden redirection of computing resources toward one isolated frequency range, the same band in which Voyager's signal had spiked. At the same time, SETI insiders began receiving national security notices urging them not to discuss recent findings on open forums. This blackout mirrored what happened after Oumuamua, but this time the response was far more severe. One anonymous source compared it to an EMP drill, except the target wasn't Earth. The entire team was instructed to act as though something, or someone, might already be listening in. Was this damage control, or were governments attempting to prevent a signal feedback loop, one that could trigger a larger chain of responses far beyond our control? The strangest twist in this unfolding mystery did not come from NASA, but from a university research group in Kyoto. In a paper submitted just 1 week after the Voyager incident, they proposed a revision to the decades-old monolith hypothesis, the idea that spacefaring civilizations plant passive beacons across galaxies, waiting for intelligent species to mature enough to activate them. According to their paper, 3 Atlas may not be a spaceship, but a technological seed, a dormant artifact awaiting a specific signature, much like the Voyager Golden Record. To activate its functions, they point out that the timing of Voyager's reorientation and Atlas's sudden slowdown are not random, but part of a predictive behavior model based on interstellar logic chains. In their words, Voyager 1 may not have discovered 3A Atlas. It may have been meant to. This terrifying implication suggests that our oldest probe has just tripped a switch in a galactic system we never knew existed, and that system is now awake. A week after Voyager 1's reorientation and the suspected signal exchange, several deep space tracking stations began reporting radiation anomalies in regions adjacent to 3 Atlas's trajectory. This wasn't normal cosmic radiation. It exhibited a pulsed pattern, fluctuating in bursts every 1.618 seconds, the golden ratio. Even more disturbing was the energy signature itself. It matched a profile previously recorded only once, during the 1977 WOW signal. NASA's own satellite protection protocols were quietly updated in the days that followed, suggesting internal teams had classified this as a potential biohazard. Several laboratories even ran genetic compatibility tests to ensure the radiation could not alter or interact with Earth-based DNA through long-wave resonance. And while no direct threat was confirmed, the response was severe enough to trigger a classified level for containment advisory, normally reserved for extraterrestrial biological threats. Why could a dead, drifting item pulse radiation with mathematical reason? Shortly after those anomalies, researchers who had spoken overtly on boards or posted papers about Voyager 1's peculiar conduct began to disappear from virtual areas. Their posts vanished. ResearchGate profiles were deleted. Remarks purged. GitHub repositories pulled. Reddit threads locked without warning. One astronomer who had uploaded a spectral reconstruction of the intercepted signal wrote, "I received a call from someone claiming to be with the DS, but they knew things about my own family they should not. They stated what I determined wasn't meant to be public, and if I valued my time on Earth, I had to walk far away from the stars." Behind the scenes, this coordinated silencing became nicknamed the Shadow Swoop, a multi-employer effort to bury every open-source evaluation of the Voyager Atlas interplay. But the deeper they attempted to erase it, the more curious the global scientific community became. In a few circles, this silence spoke louder than the statistics themselves. Something huge had been uncovered, and someone, somewhere, had decided the public wasn't ready. Atlas has no camera, no radio, no acknowledged method of interaction, and yet, researchers observed that every time a new evaluation of its structure or Voyager's vector went public, Atlas's spin rate changed. At first it was subtle, but by the third occurrence, the change happened within 6 hours of public data release. It was almost as if the object were responding in real time to human attention. This led some scientists to propose the unthinkable. 3 Atlas behaves as though it's studying our reasoning, not just monitoring electromagnetic frequencies, but perceiving the informational content of our statements, uploads, and transmissions. In a sense, it's not simply looking, it's watching us watch it. That raises a terrifying implication. What if it is no vessel at all? but a feedback probe designed to reflect the intelligence of its observer. 3 days ago, Atlas altered its trajectory again, but this time, it wasn't a mild adjustment. It was a calculated maneuver in angular velocity shift that placed it on a new intercept route with a sector previously considered irrelevant. The orbital region behind Neptune. Voyager 1 appears to have shifted its antenna array, aligning for the first time in over a decade toward that same quadrant of space. It is unclear whether the probe received a command or acted autonomously, but data logs imply that both objects are now synchronized in trajectory and pulse cadence, locked in what some are calling the touch corridor, whether by twist of fate or cosmic design. Two ancient travelers, one born of Earth, one from the stars, are now moving in harmony toward a shared destination, and somewhere deep within the void, something may already be waiting for them. We thought Voyager 1 was a relic, a golden postcard to the stars, drifting alone in the vacuum of space. But what if it was never alone? What if Voyager 1 was the first chess piece in a game we failed to realize we were playing, a game whose opponent has just made its first visible move? The sudden reprogramming, the synchronized signals, the impossible route corrections, all of them point to one chilling fact. This isn't random, and it isn't over. 3. Atlas may not be a spaceship, an asteroid, or a message in a bottle from across the stars. It may be something far more advanced, a sentient probe, a cosmic sensor, or even a technological entity designed to awaken when it detects intelligence. And now, thanks to Voyager 1, it has detected us. But here's the most terrifying thought of all. If the signal Voyager received wasn't a call for help, if it wasn't a response to our message, what if it was a warning, a countdown? And if that's true, then the question isn't what 3 Atlas is. The real question is, what's coming next? Because the stars just looked back, and they're not blinking.